Hello, esteemed gentlemen. The most dangerous man is the one who says nothing at all. Silence is often mistaken for weakness, hesitation, or indifference. But when a Sigma male goes silent, it's none of the above. It's a calculated shift, a prelude to something inevitable. He isn't pausing. He's processing, plotting, and preparing. Here's a brutal fact. 95% of people react emotionally in conflicts, while only a rare few stay silent and strategize. A Sigma male belongs to the latter group. When he withdraws into silence, it's not a retreat. It's the final move before checkmate. And the funny part? While you're overanalyzing his silence, pacing the room, sending double texts, or refreshing his last scene, he's already on to the next phase, untouched, unfazed, and uninterested. By the time you realize what his silence meant, it's already too late. Number 1. The decision has already been made, and it's irreversible. When a Sigma male goes silent, the decision has already been made, and there's no going back. There's no reconsideration, no emotional back and forth, and certainly no need for closure. By the time the silence settles in, he has already analyzed every angle, weighed every possibility, and reached a conclusion that is final and absolute. Most people hesitate when making big decisions, often second-guessing themselves or seeking validation from others. A Sigma male does neither. He doesn't need advice, reassurance, or an outside perspective. He trusts his own mind. His silence isn't uncertainty. It's confirmation that the process is already complete. If he has decided to cut someone off, walk away, or shut down communication, then that bridge is already burned in his mind. There will be no announcements, no warnings, no grand exits, just quiet detachment, followed by a complete and permanent absence. What makes this even more unsettling is that you won't see it coming. There won't be long arguments, heated debates, or emotional outbursts. The Sigma male doesn't need theatrics to make a point. One day, you're part of his world. The next, you're just a memory. No explanation, no farewell, just silence that speaks louder than any words ever could. And by the time you start questioning what went wrong, trying to understand the shift, or reaching out for clarity, it won't matter. The decision was made long before the silence arrived. The worst part? You'll never get a response because, for him, the conversation ended long before you even realized it had begun. Number 2, he's already moved beyond you in his mind. A Sigma male doesn't dwell. He doesn't sit around replaying conversations, agonizing over what was said or wondering what could have been done differently. By the time his silence becomes noticeable, he has already dissected the situation from every possible angle, stripped it of emotion, and arrived at the only conclusion that matters to him. Moving on is the best course of action. You might still be caught up in the moment, trying to figure out where things went wrong. But he's long past that stage. In his mind, the chapter has closed, the book has been shelved, and he's already reading something else. There's no resentment, no lingering attachment, just the quiet certainty that whatever connection once existed is no longer relevant to his life. What makes it even more disorienting is how effortless it seems. There's no visible struggle, no hesitation, no sign that he's looking back. The emotional weight that keeps others stuck has no hold on him. He has learned the rare skill of detaching with surgical precision, cutting away what no longer serves him without regret or second-guessing. By the time you start noticing the silence, feeling the absence, and searching for answers, he's already adjusted to a reality where you no longer exist. There's nothing left for him to process, no words that need to be said, no emotions that need to be resolved. He's 5 steps ahead, living in a future that no longer includes you, while you're still trying to understand why he left the past behind so easily. Number 3, he no longer sees you as an asset, only a liability. A Sigma male doesn't keep people around out of obligation, nostalgia, or fear of being alone. Every connection in his life serves a purpose, whether intellectual, emotional, strategic, or personal. The moment he starts seeing someone as a liability rather than an asset, the equation no longer makes sense to him. And once that calculation shifts, his silence follows swiftly and without hesitation. This isn't about cruelty or arrogance, it's about efficiency. A Sigma male doesn't operate in emotional debt. He won't maintain relationships that drain him, demand more than they give, or slow him down. While others struggle with toxic attachments, guilt, or the need for external validation, he simply removes what no longer aligns with his path. If you notice his silence, it's not because he's conflicted, it's because he has already determined that engaging further is a waste of his time and energy. What makes this so unsettling is how sudden and absolute it feels. One day, everything seems normal. The next, he's unreachable, uninterested, and unmoved by any attempts to reconnect. There's no warning, no drawn-out goodbye, just a quiet, definitive absence that speaks louder than words ever could. Most people give second chances. They explain, argue, or try to fix what's broken. A Sigma male does none of that. In his world, if you're not adding value, you're subtracting from it. And once he reaches that conclusion, he won't fight, won't explain, and certainly won't return. He'll just go silent, because to him, the conversation is already over. Number 4, he's letting you dig your own grave. A Sigma male doesn't need to argue, prove a point, or seek revenge. Instead, he understands one brutal truth. Some people are their own worst enemies. So when he goes silent, it's not always because he's angry or indifferent. It's because he knows that stepping back is the fastest way to expose who you really are. Some people thrive on drama, manipulation, or the illusion of control. They rely on his presence, his responses, and his energy to validate themselves. The moment he removes himself from the equation, they lose balance. Without him to engage, challenge, or stabilize the situation, they begin to spiral, making impulsive decisions, revealing their true nature, and ultimately proving why they were never worth his time to begin with. This is why a Sigma male doesn't rush to correct people or save them from their own mistakes. He doesn't need to. He understands that, given enough time, those who operate on deception, ego, or emotional instability will eventually collapse under the weight of their own choices. His silence isn't just a withdrawal, it's a test. And in most cases, the results are exactly what he expected. What makes this even more unsettling is that, while you may think he's ignoring you or unaware, he sees everything. He's watching, observing, and taking mental notes, all without lifting a finger. And by the time the damage is done, by the time you finally realize his absence wasn't a passive act but a deliberate one, it's far too late. You were never a threat. You were simply given the space to prove him right. Number 5. He's gathering information while giving nothing in return. A Sigma male's silence is never empty. While others fill the air with words, trying to assert dominance, prove a point, or seek validation, he remains quiet, watching, listening, absorbing. He knows that the less he says, the more others reveal, often without realizing it. His silence is a strategy, a form of reconnaissance that allows him to gather information while giving nothing in return. Most people underestimate the power of quiet observation. They mistake his silence for passivity, assuming he has nothing to contribute. What they don't realize is that he is actively collecting data, reading body language, noting inconsistencies, analyzing motives, and detecting patterns. Every conversation, every reaction, every slip of the tongue gives him a deeper understanding of the people around him. And the best part? They don't even notice they're being studied. Meanwhile, he offers nothing. No unnecessary opinions, no emotional outbursts, no hints about his plans or thoughts. The less he speaks, the harder he is to read, making him unpredictable and untouchable. Others expose their vulnerabilities without even being asked, while he remains an enigma, always aware, always ahead. By the time others realize how much he knows, it's already too late. He has gathered everything he needs while they remain blind to his intentions. In a world where people talk too much and listen too little, the Sigma male plays a different game entirely, and the quietest one in the room is always the most dangerous. Number 6. He's already plotting his next move and you won't see it coming. A Sigma male's silence is never random. It's a signal that he's already thinking 5 steps ahead. While most people react emotionally, make rash decisions, or rush into confrontation, a Sigma withdraws into deep calculation. He doesn't waste time explaining himself, arguing, or justifying his position. Instead, he steps back, vanishes into silence, and begins crafting his next move with ruthless precision. By the time others even notice his silence, the plan is already in motion. He is not impulsive, he is strategic. Every move he makes is deliberate, designed to maximize efficiency and minimize wasted effort. He does not seek revenge out of emotion, he seeks results. And when he does act, it won't be loud, messy, or predictable. It will be swift, unexpected, and impossible to counter. The unsettling part, no one ever sees it coming. While others are still wondering what his silence means, speculating about what he might do, or assuming he's simply moved on, he's already executed his plan and left the situation behind. He does not announce his intentions. He does not ask for permission. He simply moves, adapts, and succeeds, without a single warning. And by the time they finally realize what happened, by the time they start piecing everything together, he's already somewhere else, untouched, unbothered, and 3 steps ahead of their next move. Number 7. He has resigned himself to the reality that most people are not worth the effort. A Sigma male doesn't waste time on people who drain his energy, repeat the same mistakes, or refuse to evolve. He is not interested in fixing, convincing, or proving himself to anyone. When he goes silent, it's not an emotional reaction. It's acceptance. He has come to the undeniable conclusion that you are not worth the effort. This realization doesn't come easily. He gives people a chance to show who they are, observes their actions over time, and silently takes note. But once it becomes clear that someone brings nothing but redundancy, drama, or stagnation, he mentally checks out. There is no anger, no dramatic farewell, no need for confrontation. He simply disengages, because continuing to invest in a dead-end connection is a violation of his own logic. His silence is the final verdict. It means he has seen enough, processed the outcome, and made a permanent decision. And once that decision is made, there is no reversing it. A Sigma male never revisits closed doors or wastes time on people who have already proven their lack of value. The only response he gives is absence. The irony? Many people don't even realize they've been dismissed until it's too late. They assume his silence is temporary, that he will eventually return, that they still hold some significance. They don't. By the time they understand what his silence truly means, they are already a forgotten chapter in a book he has long since finished reading. Number 8. He knows that speaking would only reveal his intentions. A Sigma male understands a fundamental truth. The more you speak, the more you reveal. Most people feel the need to explain themselves, to defend their actions, or to seek validation. A Sigma male feels none of that. He knows that every word spoken is a window into his mind, his thoughts, his strategies, his emotions. And in a world where information is power, he chooses to give nothing away. His silence isn't just about avoiding conflict or staying detached. It's a tactical decision. The less others know about his motives, the harder it is to predict his next move. Is he planning something? Has he already moved on? Is he indifferent or simply waiting for the right moment? The uncertainty keeps people guessing, overthinking, and underestimating him. And that's exactly where he wants them. People fear what they don't understand. When someone is loud and reactive, their intentions are obvious. When someone is silent, they become unreadable. And what is unreadable is uncontrollable. A Sigma male thrives in this ambiguity, using it as both a shield and a weapon. Others reveal themselves first, expose their weaknesses, and play their hands too soon while he remains a mystery. By saying nothing, he forces the world to make assumptions, most of them wrong. And by the time anyone figures out what he was truly thinking, it's already too late. His silence isn't just a habit, it's his strongest form of control. Number 9. His silence is not temporary. It's a prelude to disappearance. When a Sigma male goes silent, it's not just a momentary lapse or an emotional pause. It's a signal that a deeper shift is occurring. His silence is the beginning of an irreversible withdrawal. And by the time you notice, it's often too late to change anything. It's not the kind of silence that can be undone with a quick apology or a long conversation. It's a quiet severance of the bond that once held you together. And once he decides to disconnect, the process has already begun. Most people, when faced with silence, think it's a temporary state. They believe that with time, things will return to normal, that the person will eventually come back around, that they'll rekindle what was once there. But for a Sigma male, silence means that the door is already closed, and it was locked long before you even noticed. He doesn't just stop talking, he stops caring. And when that shift happens, there's no going back. Emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically, the Sigma has already checked out. He no longer feels the need to engage, to explain, or to justify his actions. In fact, his absence is often the clearest sign that he's moved on and he won't be returning. There's no drawn-out goodbyes or messy explanations. His silence simply fades into the background until you realize, weeks or months later, that he's gone from your life entirely. What's worse is that by the time you understand what his silence meant, by the time you finally process the reality that he has mentally and emotionally moved on, he's already far beyond the point of return. Number 10. He's entering his most dangerous mode, indifference. Indifference is the final stage of a Sigma male's emotional detachment, and it's the most dangerous one. Hate and anger require energy. They indicate that someone still cares enough to feel hurt, frustrated, or threatened. Indifference is the complete opposite. It signals that he has no emotional stake in the situation at all. You no longer matter to him in any way. When a Sigma male goes silent, it's not out of anger or frustration. It's because he has mentally and emotionally checked out. His silence is the end of any emotional investment, and that's what makes it so unsettling. If he hated you, if he was angry at you, it would mean he still saw you as a worthy adversary. But when he stops acknowledging your presence altogether, when his silence becomes his only response, he's telling you that you are irrelevant. What's dangerous about this indifference is that it's often the most permanent state of all. He's not going to scream, fight, or create chaos. He's simply moving on without you. No mess, no drama, no need for closure. And as much as it might sting to realize, his lack of reaction means that to him, you no longer even exist in the equation. His indifference is his most powerful weapon, because it's a silent declaration that he has no further use for you. And the scariest part, you'll never see it coming until it's too late. By the time you realize you've been erased from his world, he has already found peace, clarity, and the freedom to move on, completely unbothered by your attempts to get back into his orbit. When a Sigma male goes silent, it's not out of impulse or emotional response. It's a calculated declaration of self-preservation. It's the precise moment when he steps back, reassesses his environment, and recalibrates his course without any attachment to those who no longer serve a purpose in his life. For him, silence is not a sign of weakness or conflict. It's the ultimate act of control, detaching from distractions, recalibrating priorities, and aligning himself with his next objective. The most unsettling part of his silence is that, while others scramble for explanations, question what went wrong, or wonder if they can repair the damage, he's already focused on what lies ahead. His silence is a signal that he has mentally and emotionally moved on, and when that shift happens, it's final. Those left behind will chase after words, closure, and answers, but by then, his path is already set, and the moment for reconciliation has long passed. In his mind, the decision was made, the calculation was completed, and there is no turning back. Once he detaches, it's not for a second thought. It's for a future that no longer includes the people or situations that were holding him back. And by the time anyone figures out what happened, by the time they realize the significance of his absence, it's already too late to reverse it. The Sigma male has moved on, and in the silence, he's already living his next chapter. If you found this insight into the Sigma male's silent power intriguing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Like, comment, and share your thoughts. Do you agree with the points made, or have you experienced this firsthand? Let us know in the comments. Share this with anyone who might need a deeper understanding of the Sigma male's world. You won't want to miss what's coming next, so stay tuned.